Once again, it was a gruelling week for victims and their families, and also for people who had to actually come forward and tell their story bravely, but it was very distressing for them. It's very interesting that in the second week, just like with the first, we have seen where the pastoral and the compensation matters have become blurred, entangled, so much so that some victims weren't even sure whether they were in towards healing or a compensation settlement. Even some of our own church people were confused. And it's become abundantly clear again that the church needs to separate its pastoral responsibilities and responses from anything to do with complaints handling and compensation. And we need an outside body to investigate, to settle and determine compensation, and then for the church to pay. We've seen many of the church witnesses admitting their mistakes, but committed to letting the truth come forward and explaining how the church handled or mishandled cases. Justice McClellan was particularly interested in exploring the relationship between the Australian Church and the Vatican, how the church structures work, where does responsibility lie, what are the obligations about passing information from Australia to the Vatican, how those obligations sit against our own civil authorities and obligations to them. Nothing goes to the Vatican that isn't first dealt with here and with civil authorities here. This week demonstrated that one of the real problems with Towards Healing and how it's applied is that there isn't clear communication with victims so that they know who they'll be dealing with and what they can expect along the process. Unfortunately, we saw examples this week where victims weren't given all the information that was available to them. And we heard the tragedy that it took a royal commission before one victim found out that his perpetrator had left a suicide note admitting to the abuse and hoping that the victim would forgive him. The past fortnight has only confirmed what our council, in its submission to the Royal Commission, signalled. That is, that we need to reform internally in the church so that church authorities, local bishops are held to a set of standards on how Towards Healing is applied, so that it is consistent and that victims and their supporters know exactly what to expect and are informed on what type of outcomes Towards Healing will give them. It's abundantly clear from what we've heard this past fortnight that the pastoral response of the church must be completely separate from any settlements and compensation processes and payments. These cases demonstrate once again that the days of the church investigating itself are over. In 2014, we can expect a lot more intense case studies and investigation of the church. The Royal Commission will really crank up its public hearings, and we will be a part of that in a major way.